If you are easily offended, please leave and don't come back. The views, opinions, and statements from this podcast are by no one. I repeat, by no one. They are not real, and everything is completely made up. This is for entertainment purposes only. The people in this podcast are not doctors, lawyers, or health professionals. They barely graduated high school. It's not that serious. Enjoy the show and have a nice day. Welcome to another episode of Vernon's podcast, brought to you by me, Vernon Smith. I'm coming to you from, well, I'm not going to disclose my location. Today's another special episode. I was really, it's kind of just, you can call this, I guess, like let's say a crossover, I guess. I did his shit. He's coming to do mine, thankfully.
Yeah.
So without further ado, sir, would you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. For those that don't know who I am Lawrence Nayally, and I hail from Pitsaki First Nations, which is Wrigley. It's the Highway 1. It's the end of the all-season road, and that's where I'm from. My parents are Boniface and Dora Nayally. They were an elderly couple from the community that I was blessed enough to be raised by. So those are my paternal grandparents. My father is Frederick Nayally. He passed in a plane crash in '84, so I never really got a chance to know him. My mother is from Dene, and her name is, or her maiden name is Mary Jane Bitsidia. So
okay.
that to give you a sense, that's who I am. That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay, and he's also a host on Trails End with
Yeah.
CBC Radio 1. So, how is that? What's that like?
Radio, like this format, I guess, for the CBC, they are a national corporation.
Huge.
And they are, they're pretty big. They're right up there when it comes to media here in this country. So, working with that corporation, it's been positive. There's as you get into any role, there are challenges and there's learning curves and what have you. And I feel like having done 14 years within this industry, I can kind of say, I've learned a thing or two, but I'm still learning. I'm still fairly young, and I'm just blessed, really, and thankful for people that took a chance on little old me from Wrigley. Yeah. But working at CBC, it's great. Before that, I worked with CKLB, which is part of the Northwest Territories Native Communication Society. And so they have a radio station that broadcasts to like 32 communities across the Northwest Territories. And that's really where I got my start in radio. It's quite a story to that. But that's where I started out. And it's a great indigenous run organization that revolves around language use, language preservation and promotion, and it also gives the information that many communities need. They play great music, they have great shows, and it was a real it was a lot of fun working at CKLB. But going back to that question you asked, how's it at Trails End with CBC? It's great because you get to travel quite a bit for that job. And one of the things I've grown to love so much is sitting with somebody, sometimes you barely know, you've just met them, but sitting with them and for them to be able to share their stories with you, that is such a privilege. It's such a great honor, and when I was first starting out, I just thought, okay, well, I'm just talking to people, just asking simple questions and what have you. Sometimes there are complex questions, sometimes there are important questions to be asked and what have you. But at the very beginning, I thought it was just going to be, uh, like that. But you go long enough in this sort of a career, you start to learn that stories do matter. People and their time is valuable. You don't want to be wasting it. And you learn a great deal. That's I think one of the main draws for me is you're always learning.
Yeah.
Every single day. Along the way, you pick up little pieces of what people had to share, their advices, and then you say, oh, that sounded good. I'm going to see if I can practice that in my own life.
Oh,
You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I like doing. And really, storytelling has been around since we first started out as a civilization, as a people. Sharing stories through Gondi, your words, your living words, your breathing words, has been around for a very long time. People meet each other way out in the trail, and they'll sit down and they'll exchange stories, where they've been, what they've seen, the animals they've hunted, the good, hunting and harvesting areas and what have you. So I just find that something like this just is natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this something that you've always wanted to do, or did you just like jump into it and see what it was like and how it felt?
Okay, so that's an interesting story. So when I was in Wrigley, I worked for the Pitsaki First Nations for a number of years. I worked in communications, and I seen how effective, if you can take information and summarize it in a way that's understandable to people.
Yeah.
You keep them informed, and you make sure everybody feels involved. That's so important. You make sure everybody feels involved, like they're part of this, because they are, right?
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to self-determination, or seeking our independence from, the federal territorial government, and trying to carve out a path that'll, see us designing our own futures.
Yeah.
You can achieve, visions if you communicate them well enough. So I was working with the band office, and it was great. Working for your people, being of service to others is, from what my grandfather shared with me, it's like one of the top honors you can have, right?
Yeah.
Not being a selfish person, not just working for you. If you can somehow find value in helping others, that feeds the spirit, right? It makes you feel good. So, I felt good working for my First Nations. And then, I met the love of my life and brought her home. And it just kind of blossomed from there.
To Wrigley?
Yeah, to Wrigley. And then, we found out we're having a baby, and she wanted to move back over here. And I just asked if I wanted to come. And I thought, so our minds are designed to protect us from any danger, right?
Yeah.
So they say you got about 5 seconds to really think about the leap you're about to take, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After 5 seconds, your brain just shuts you down and tells you, no, you're not doing that. It's too risky. It's going to hurt you. So you have those 5 seconds to really think, okay, I'm going to do it, and you do it. And so when she asked, if I wanted to come over here, I thought those 5 seconds, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Without even thinking about planning forward, you know what I mean? Because I came here with nothing, no idea what was going to happen, where I was going to end up. All I knew was that there was a baby that was about to be born, and I felt in my heart they needed a father to be there, right, along with a mother. And if things didn't work out and we separated, I would still make an effort to make it work, right? Because it really takes two. And so I said yeah, and I was helping coordinate a gathering, and there was hand games and whatnot, and I was doing that, and she had already given birth, and I was like 2-3 days late. And
How old were you?
I want to say 23, 24.
When you had your first kid?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I was about 24, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, I told my work, this is my last event that I'm going to be helping out with. I'm moving to Yellowknife.
Because you were 3 days late?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I got to get out of here. And
Yeah.
I believe that was a Saturday or Sunday. And I had like, what, $1,400 that, they paid me, and I cashed that. And, some of it went for gas. And the rest I knew had to go for food and diapers and clothing and all of that. So I was like, okay. So came here.
Just jumped right into it.
Just jumped right into it. We were staying at my spouse's parents.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. When you first become a father, you really have to take into account that it's not about you anymore. That
hopefully that's your mindset.
yeah. It's like it really isn't about your journey anymore. Like it somewhat kind of is, but I mean, you have a responsibility now. You have to, bring up this young person, and you have to make it work, right?
Yeah.
So from there, just ended up getting, work here and there, and not really no thought to what I wanted to do here. I do know this though. When I was younger, I always had this vision in my mind
of the parent you're going to be?
Like,
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Of the things I wanted to do, how I see myself carrying myself out into my adult years. I knew I was going to do something, that was going to be great or good, and that it was going to be fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was when I was younger, but I believed it. And the whole attitude and idea of, putting your, everything into something and kind of nurturing, this manifestation that you want to see become a reality. Yeah. It's really true, because that's how I thought when I was younger, right?
So you didn't know exactly what it was that you were going to do?
No, but I knew something was coming along the way. I don't know if this relates to some people out there.
Yeah.
But
I relate to that too.
You know what I mean? There's just something inside that you're just saying, there's more out there, but you're going to have to take a chance.
Yes.
You're going to have to put in the work, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And so I thought, okay, well, I never really fit into.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was always kind of like, the energy of the room changes when I walk in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's out of respect or fear or whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Like, who's this guy?
Yeah. That's great, though. I think that reason for that alone, that's probably why, like, you need that in your profession so that people can listen to you, pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's with that alone. Do you think that, let's say, because like me myself, I'm a bit of like an introvert.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like that kind of attracts like too much attention, where like sometimes you're just like, want to like, don't want the eyes and ears on you or something?
Sometimes I tell myself that, sometimes like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want to be doing that, or stretch myself out too thin. But most of the times I just roll with whatever I feel is right.
Yeah.
And I go by that, right? I've always done that throughout my life.
Yeah.
But going back to, what I was saying about the journey to finding out what I wanted to do, where I was going to end up. So I do those jobs. I'm at ALS Laboratories here in Yellowknife. They crush rock, and great people over there as well. And, I'm working there, and I'm just like, this is just another paycheck so I can put, food on the table and help out with the baby and what have you.
Yeah, it's like a stepping stone.
Yeah, but I had aspirations. Like, I wanted to do bigger, cooler things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to make good use of this one life that I have,
and enjoy it.
Because I it's kind of pushed onto you through media when you're growing up. Movies, you got to be a rock star and famous and all this. You got to have all of that. And you grow up and that's kind of what you chase, right? And then you get to my age and you're like, holy smokes, actually, maybe there's more to it.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I was working that job and, like I mentioned earlier, I was brought up by my grandparents, and my grandfather would say, "I see now go dejin de a konti chinta zon fananeti a konti ko a quindi e yalit ashi notsi me zon hainti." Right?
What does that mean?
And what he said was, if you ever have, in your life, if it becomes very difficult, something's really hard for you. Now go deji, if something's hard for you, go in the bush by yourself, make a fire, feed that fire and sing a prayer song to Creator and ask for help, and maybe they'll help you. And so I was at ALS, and this was a Friday. I thought about that, because it's not like I was having a hard time, but at the same time, it kind of felt like that because, we were staying with her parents, and we had moved out of there because at that time I was already on my own for the longest time. And so kind of wanted our own space, and so you need a little bit of a better job. So I took my grandfather's advice. I went not far from down here, and I did exactly as he asked. Made the fire, fed the fire, and then I just said, very plainly.
Do you mind?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I just said I need help. Sidile says anindi. Can you help me out a little bit? Asinez ala dane da endogoa da hun asinez ekilimik inichinde in de senezimet at yeah. And what I said was, like, if you can put something on my path here, I'll try my best to make, do good with it.
Yeah.
And then
I love that you're able to speak that fluently.
Yeah.
Speak your native tongue fluently. What for the listeners who don't know, what would that be?
Oh yeah, that's they call it South Slavey, but I just call it dene. I find Slavey is such a it's a worn out term to describe a beautiful people.
What was that term?
South Slavey.
Yeah.
There's South Slavey, North Slavey, and it's I guess people are used to it, but I'm just like I'm past that. You know what I mean? Like,
so like
it's just denejati or dechoyati, whatever. But it's the dialect that I grew up from around.
Yeah.
And that's where our community is. We had Fort Simpson, which was a major gathering place long ago for our people. All right, and still is. But we had people from over there, and then we had people from the, Satu area, Satugut, and so it was really an interesting blend of languages in our community, because then you had, the people of the lowlands, you have the people of the mountains, people of the river, people of the lakes, and you had a different clan system. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You had different clans, and then they kind of amalgamated into one when Treaty 11 was taken up here
I was
in the
ask
north.
about that.
You know what I mean? And after those treaties were signed, that's when all the other clans kind of came in and, occupied the current communities that you see today. So that's kind of like a snapshot overview of my language dialect. It was mainly my grandparents that spoke in our house, right? But my grandmother was from the Fish Lake area. My father's, family are from the Blackwater and the mountain people. So their phonetic sounds are a little bit more different. Like there's a lot of PH in there. Like, Fort Simpson, they say the. Like for stars, us, we say fe.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So a slight little difference, not too bad. What's unique about languages, is that a language will stay the same up to about 900 people. And then naturally, the language will just switch dialects.
Oh, okay.
It'll create a new language for it to survive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because you have to change to survive, eh?
Yeah.
Adapt.
So that's my language, and so that's what I had done, during that time, and then It's crazy. I believed that something good was going to happen. And then 3 days, that was a Sunday I did that. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday rolled around. It was afternoon. I get this call on my cell phone. It's like 3 o'clock. And it's this guy, Amos Scott, right? I know the name. I've seen him at the assemblies when I was a kid. And he was always carrying around a camera. I thought, the big tall guy from this way, recording it. I maybe it was for APTN, I don't know. But he, I guess I was helping to co-chair a Decho assembly, and I spoke in my language, and he happened to be there, heard it, and figured I was like fluent enough.
Yeah.
And so he gives me a call. And he was like, "Hey, Lawrence, this is Lawrence Nayally, yada yada," and a little bit of small talk. And he was like, "I seen you at the Decho Assembly, and you spoke pretty fluent dene. Have you ever tried out radio?" And I thought, radio? I was like, "No, never. No, And then the next question was like, "Have you got any experience in radio?" I was like, aside from talking with Peter Hope on the CBC, for community updates, that's about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, we got a position open for the South Slavey area.
Oh, okay.
And we'd like to know if you'd be interested in trying it out, go for an interview." And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll try that out. And, we went on to share, he shared, the rest of the details where I was going to meet him and whatnot. And then at the end of the call, I stopped and I just thought, holy smokes, wow, that is something, to have listened to what my grandfather had to share and do that ceremony. And then 3 days later, get this call. And it just set me on this totally different trajectory in my life. And I'm very thankful for that call, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And then I went for the job interview. And, of course, I think I was 24, 25 around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 25.
So that was 14 years ago?
Yeah, at 25 years old. And then they were like, I told them a bit about myself and what I'll be able to do. And then they were like, yeah, we'll train you up for 2 weeks. There's this Decho Annual Assembly happening, and, we'd like to send you. So I was like, wow, okay. So I got 2 weeks training, and it was Les Carpenter, God, Creator, rest his soul. He was such a kind, heartful, incredible man. Who just wanted to see the best in our, indigenous youth, right?
Is he a mentor of yours?
Yeah, him and William Greenland. William Greenland, a lot of people might know him. I grew up watching him MC, so we'll get to that later. But I just thought these were incredible people, and I was mentored by so many others. And then, it just kind of blossomed into something incredible. We ended up doing, helping out with a podcast series called Feel Real Radio, podcast for youth. JC, holy, I forgot the name. It's been so long since I seen her. I just seen her not long ago. Anyways, JC Firthhagen.
Okay.
There we go. JC Firthhagen.
Okay.
Maybe just cut that part out. But JC Firthhagen and so many others that we got to work with.
Okay.
And it was, quite the journey. But I really feel like if you are told by your elders, like, this is what you do in case you run into trouble or whatnot, like, believe it, or question it or what have you. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
But
hear that, kids?
Yeah, you hear that, kids. Listen to your elders.
Yeah.
They they lived a long life to share these types of advices. And so and then years later, we had worked for 4.5 years, almost 5 years. Funding was cut, so I was laid off. And that I want to call that the dark period in my life. That's kind of where I fell into depression, right? Talking about mental health, especially among young Indigenous men, it exists. it's hard to describe it. It's such a like down moment for any, person, I think.
Yeah.
That goes through depression. It's life sucking.
At the time, did you know that that's what it was?
Yeah, I knew it. I had some really bad moments during that time because you're out here, you're far away from your people, you're far away from your support systems and your family, and you come to a community and you're building these relationships and you're making these networks and these connections, and everything's going good, and then it just gets severed because the federal government pulls funding out of indigenous languages. And I was learning my language. Like I'm getting stronger in the language, right?
Yeah.
During this whole process. But once that got severed, you kind of go down like, oh my gosh, like what now? Like, I'm almost 30 years old and this is what I know so far. But I know like there's other opportunities. But at the time it was like,
end of the world.
End of the world. Oh my gosh, and you're young and you're still navigating this life in this world, where you fit in.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity to work with at-risk youth with Besha Blondin, and she invited me and we did some work, and that kind of kept me afloat, and started doing other things. And then got rehired back that summer.
Yeah.
Right. And then it wasn't the same. It's just that uncertainty, that feeling whether this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
How can I better prepare myself if in the event of that, right? So it was kind of like survival mode for me, and I didn't like that. Like I like just not having to worry about any of that, right? So your insecurity is, especially job insecurity, it gets heightened.
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of where I was. I didn't like it. So I did the thing again, what my grandfather said.
Yeah.
Go in the bush, make a fire, feed fire, and use your drum, sing the songs, ask for help, and see where it goes from there. And I did that again. I said, I'm not happy where I'm at, so if you can help me out again, that'd be great. And then I get this message on Facebook from Marlene Grooms, who is a dene language announcer. Incredible, talented, very, very great to work with. She's like my older sister.
Oh, okay.
She was already at the CBC, asked me to apply, and I was like, it's like, they're not going to hire me. Like I'm just a small town kid from Wrigley. And
that's a big platform too.
And I kind of like, at the moment, I doubted myself. Yeah. But then, like what I said earlier, you have those 5 seconds, right? And I thought, you know what? I'll never find out unless I try. And if I don't get picked, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right. I'm at that point in my life at that, in that section. And, I was like, and if I do great, and if I fail, then I'll learn from that and I'll prove on that. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I tried it out. And what's crazy is, I wrote up my resume, my cover letter, was going to submit it via internet. Right. And then the job was taken down, and I thought, okay, this is a sign. Yeah. Right. And then I told my friend Marlene, and she was like, don't be silly, just bring it in. I brought it in, and it's a huge building.
Like in person?
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of mullahs.
That's intimidating.
For those that don't know what mullah is, it's white people. Yeah. There's lots of those who are running around, and they're serious people though. And this is a big corporation, and I was intimidation. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like just having uncertainty too, stepping into new territory.
It's stepping into new territory, but it's also like when you've always been surrounded by your own people. Yeah. Work-wise. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what you're used to.
Because you've always worked with indigenous.
Yeah, and then you're shifting it, and now you're working with non-indigenous people, and you don't know how they'll be around you, and and that's just a testament to how little we've come to a place where we can start really knowing each other, right? Yeah. But I grew up in a time where we were warned not to cause trouble for non-Indigenous people because, you know, they would use their government and their RCMP against us and, you know, throw us into foster care or, you know, cut off their pension or, you know, toss my father into jail. Like, this is a reality. Like, this was not too long ago. This was happening, right? And so I grew up in that kind of, you know, in that state, right? In that mindset that, you know, oh, be careful, you know, they you know, there's a lot that happen that make us react in this way, that make us, you know, be a certain way, right?
Yeah. Like,
and so you going into a major field of work that, you know, is like that, and then once you get in, you're like, okay, well, they're just like us. Damn, you know, they have similar stories and they have similar struggles.
They just say things like, let's skedaddle.
Let's skedaddle
or whatever. Like,
you could,
but they're cool.
You know,
they're cool.
Like, and they're cool, you know, and we, you know, I've got, you know, I made some great friends.
Yeah, you have to look at them too. Like, you're figuring them out, they're figuring you out. It's just like, and then once you guys come into like a common ground of understanding, and then everything's just fine.
Yeah, and they all want, you know, the best in their community and others and what have you, and I totally respect that. And, you know, I kind of grew up with, you know, there's always that one white guy in a native community, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys have that in...
We do. In Mexico?
Yeah.
And then just later, after a while, they ended up talking like us.
And they just get, you know, they're just indoctrinated into all of it, and they just like resi like us, right? And they get the jokes, and you know, they can speak a little bit of the phrases and whatnot. Yeah. You know, I have huge respect for people.
Yeah, because they're stepping around. They're like surrounded by brown people. They don't know.
Yeah, they just immerse themselves. Yeah. And so, you know, I have a friend like that from back home, and his name's Trevor, and you know, he's like a really close, good friend. Yeah. And so, you know,
I want to go back to that when you went to go work for CBC.
Yeah.
And then were you like the only Indigenous person there?
Oh, no. I knew Marlene Grooms worked there. And, and then you come, you know, there's such an incredible network.
Yeah.
And support system. Yeah. For, you know, non-Indigenous or Indigenous people in that organization. And you're connected with different producers, associate producers, hosts, and whatnot, Indigenous hosts from across the country. Yeah. Right? And so that was great to see. And then, you know, you know, going into the Yellowknife CBC here.
Yeah. How did you get your own show? What happened there?
Oh, so so this was, I guess, a long time standing CBC radio show called Trails End, right?
Oh, I thought that was like you created it.
No, I wish I had. Yeah, but I'm glad somebody did before me. They knew what they were doing. They knew the format, the kind of content that they were going to be sharing with people, and so coming from CKLB to that was like such an eye opener. Yeah.
It's like just, a bigger audience?
It wasn't. It doesn't. Well, when you're talking like this, it doesn't feel like there's a huge audience.
Oh,
yeah. You know, but the reality is that there are people that watch, and they watch what you say, right?
Your voice is really powerful too.
It's powerful, and that's what my grandfather always taught me growing up, right? You know, it could hurt people, and it also can lift people up. So it's up to you, right? And the environment that you're in, which you know, kind of dictates what you'll say with this, whether with emotion, with heart, with spirit, with malintent, or whatever, right?
Do you ever find yourself, since you're like aware of that, since that your voice carries weight, do you ever find yourself kind of being like really like second guessing yourself and stuff before you say certain things like I know that
you got to be for me it's just about being mindful.
Okay, and then what about like, do you find yourself kind of like going against your beliefs and what you think just to kind of please the listener?
No, not really. You know, I share my beliefs. I share who I am, right? Very openly, because that's who I am.
Yeah, right? like what if you say like, because you work for a big company, and then they're like, hey, you have to do this, cover this, and then if you don't want to do it, then what do you like?
Oh, you can protest and just say, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And they'll accommodate that, right?
Oh, okay.
Or if it's a very, emotional thing that, you have to cover, you could not, right? I think we're at a point in time where we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Right? We're allowed to say no. But
I was excited when we connected.
Yeah.
We reached out, and then I was just like, holy fuck, yeah, that show. And I went to go check and everything. I was like, this is insane. I was so happy to see, like, go do whatever you want. And then it was just like, I can't believe I couldn't believe you even reached out, and I couldn't believe you wanted me on the show. And then afterwards too, I was just like, holy shit. Once I got there, I was like, oh, this is actually fucking legit.
Yeah, it's legit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing, is that you can come from a small little town.
Yeah.
As long as you know how to read, write, and storytell and describe, situations and whatnot, and articulate yourself well, go out there with grit, you can achieve these incredible things, right?
Yeah. And I love that too, when you said that you just, like, you go out of your way to like help and shine light to indigenous stuff that's going on, eh?
Oh yeah, because we didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the people back in the 60s and 70s that were at the forefront of that work, like, damn, thank you so much. Thank you for going through what you had to go through to give us, a chance to be open with our voices. Yeah. Right? To stand up for ourselves. Yeah. Because we're subjugated to quite a bit.
Yeah.
Of abuses when it comes to residential schools and whatnot. And, I feel like that had to happen, right?
I was, like, so thankful too, but the reason why it was because, like, you could have just been like, no, you know what I mean? Like, that's I don't interview that fucking kid, you know what I mean? But then you weren't. You're so, like, with your open arms, and because it's just like, because some people, they could, like, be, like, competitive, you know what I mean? And then you just, like, kind of say, here, no, you know, put your arm around me and stuff. So that was fucking awesome. So because we can all eat. There's food, lots of money, lots of shit to go around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's so true.
Lots of opportunities for everybody.
And for me, really, where that comes from is just from the people I surrounded myself with growing up, right? That's how my grandparents were. Yeah. They respected everybody, and they made sure, people felt welcome and loved and appreciated, and that your time with me is valuable. Like, I really value the time I'm spending with you. I want to hear what you have to say, what you've been through and whatnot, and help you if I can in whatever way that might be, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the environment I always grew up around. Yeah.
And you really look at it too. I think that it's right now is fucking a perfect time for, like, creators or anybody who wants to be, like, in the creative space, because there's so much ground to conquer. Everybody can do there's, like, space for everybody who has, like, their own little niche thing. Yeah. And because it's just wide open for the taking, nobody's out here. No. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's exciting, and I can't wait, because I know that it's gonna happen, and I'll, like, jump right on it and get them on my show too and stuff. Like, and I'm so excited to collaborate with people. Yeah. And have some more things on the way too. Yeah. Shit, it's I love it.
Well, that's kind of part of the reason why I volunteered. When you were like, oh, you gotta come on the show. Yeah. When we're interviewing you. Yeah. And I thought about that, and I was like, I'd really like to see this podcast take off. Of course, like, I had ideas of podcasts I want to do myself. Like, it's just a form of storytelling, and people are interested in stuff that other people have to share and their experiences that they can learn from, hopefully. But the sky's the limit, and really the only limitation for anybody is yourself, right? You're the one that says, oh, I can't do this. Oh, you're the one that says, oh, I can't do that. I don't know this, or I don't know that. Like, you got to, when you grow up, when you become, when things become clear of just how things work and whatnot, you have to really know when to take those risks and chances and just say, screw it. Whatever happens, happens.
Stay out of that comfort zone too.
Yeah. Stay out of the comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah. because if you're getting anxious, your stomach's kind of bubbling up a little bit, it's probably a good sign that you should go and do it. And
Yeah.
if you fail, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just try again or try harder. You learn from it and continue to go.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask too about so you were thinking about going to a podcast, eh? So is that what like direction, like how would you want to like structure it?
It's sort of like this, really.
Yeah.
But maybe there'll be a time for that down the road. But just having good conversations.
Yeah.
About the stories of the North. With talking with leaders, with people. Joe Blow on the street. Everybody has a unique story.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody on this entire planet is not boring at all. You sit with them for, a good full day, and you'll hear some pretty amazing stories. Sometimes horrifying, sometimes miraculous stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bullshit. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's serious and whatnot, and I'm just kind of like, just feel it out. Yeah. You can talk about anything, and yeah.
And if you're lucky enough, there might be somebody to relate to it.
Yeah.
And you help them through it too as well.
Yeah.
And so with going back again into going to the media space.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of like I know there's like no like preparation for it because you didn't really know it, but then once you got into it, what was it like? Like did you find that like maybe like there was like constraints or like there's the things
CBC? Oh yeah.
Like
things
you can't do and stuff?
Yeah. Well, the number one thing for them is credibility, accountability,
of course,
transparency, and when you're sharing any story,
it needs to be factual.
It needs to be factual. You need to triple check your sources, and because people are dependent on what they share on there, right, on that platform.
I think everybody like here, I know everybody goes to CBC for the news.
Oh yeah, and that's the reputation they have, and they don't want to be that, that to be tarnished. So you kind of like you grow up a little bit once you get into a space like that, right? Because then you're like, oh wow, I made it. And so it was an event I was preparing for. I didn't have a suit or anything like that. I went to Edmonton, bought this nice blazer, and this woman, that was helping me, she was like, oh, this is very nice. What do you got going on? And I was like, oh, I'm going for this award. And she was like, oh, where do you work? And I was like, oh, at the CBC. And she was like, oh my gosh, no way. You must be so proud of yourself. I never thought of it like that. Up until that point, I was like, holy smokes, okay, so maybe I don't know whether you at that point you make it or not, but I kind of felt like, oh wow, I've with the help with so much people to be able to help me on this journey, I've managed to arrive here.
Because you can't think you can do it alone? No, you can't.
No, you can't. And so now then you get there, and then you're like, now what? What can I do with this thing?
Did you think it didn't hit you that how far you've gotten is because like you're always on the next thing.
Yeah, you just get so busy, right? Yeah. You get busy with your family, you get busy with events, and at that time, I Don't Know More had kicked off, and I helped with that, the organization of that, and did a bunch of really cool things, because I always believed that you have to try your best to help your people, your nation, right?
Yeah.
And the people that reside in your nation, because we're all family. And so, when I Don't Know More came around and things just started happening, I've always wanted to get into music. So, I got invited by Leela Gilday, like, Juno Award winning or nominated at that time,
Juno's like
and you're like, holy smokes, wow, okay. So you get so busy. And then, when she said that, I was like, holy smokes, you've been hard at it, for the last 10 plus years. And now you have some time to reflect, and you're like, damn, this is great, and I hope a lot of other young, indigenous people from our communities can go through something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it's a great feeling, knowing that you've done a lot of great work, hard work. You've had some missteps along the way and whatnot, like everybody else, and what have you. And then to arrive to a place where you're like, okay, here's where I'm at, though, is like, where to next? You know what I mean? I don't know whether it's a human thing to always want to venture out and see what else is over the horizon, but I'm that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like that too.
And I really become kind of selfish in a way where I'm like, you can rest here, you can wait here, you can turn back. I want to see what's over there. And then because you're so like that, you can make mistakes and you can forget about things that are important. And then you look back and you're like, holy smokes, I better slow down.
Yeah, I heard that too. When you're like that, when you're always like on to the next thing and you're always wondering what's over that mountain over there, and you sometimes you become like unhappy with where you are. Yeah. Because you always want more and more and more.
Yeah. And so like now I'm at a place where I'm just like, I'm okay with everything.
Yeah.
I don't want anymore. I don't need anymore. I'm still young, thankfully. I still have energy. I have ideas. I have visions that I want to carry out.
Yeah.
And, right now I'm at a place where I'm just kind of chilling out, just relaxing, not going, not running again, know. Maybe that's for later, the last hurrah of my youth. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. You asked me, where do you think this is going, this whole podcast? Where do you think you're going?
That's a very hard thing to try to map out. I can't. I don't know the future.
Yeah.
But I'm open. I'm open to whatever is out there. Yeah, a book. People have asked me about that. Some people, want to see me in leadership role.
Yeah.
Like I got asked last year to sit as the interim Grand Chief of the Detroit First Nations, right? But then I turned that down because they required an answer right away.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, do I stop my career? Right? And do I jump into a different seat?
Yeah.
Or do I just, pause it for now and look at it again down the road? So I paused it. And then I thought, something better is, like I always have these feelings, you know what I mean? Like something's coming, something great is coming.
Yeah.
And so at that moment when I said no, that's what I said. And me and my buddy, my colleague Graham was there. And then I was like, yeah, maybe something else better will come along the way. And then not too long after that, I get this call. You want to go to Rome? Do you want to go be, a cultural performer for the delegates over there to, lift up their spirits during the hard times that they're going to be having these conversations with Pope Francis.
Performing in what kind of performance?
In Rome, like the Dene prayer song. Like there's a group of us that I was
like drums and stuff.
Yeah,
drumming,
chant and storytelling, and so I got asked to be a part of that, and I tell you that was an incredible, profound moment. And there's videos of me dancing behind the drummers, or in front of them behind the delegates. Like that was one of those moments where you're just so proud to know that there was people that fought very hard to keep on, to keep protection of our songs, our ceremony, our belief system, and all of these things that make us dene, that make us the people of this land. I was in that moment. I was like, I'm so thankful for the these things that they tried so hard to rip out of us.
Yeah,
that it's still here, right?
Yeah,
and that we still have this beautiful land, and the sufficient amount of water and resources to sustain our nations, and so there was a lot going on at that time. But anyways, so that's one example. Another one, there's a territorial election coming up. Some people want me to run for MLA and, and what have you. And so there's all the...
Did you ever give that some thought?
To be honest, that's kind of where I wanted to be when I was younger.
Yeah.
So my grandfather, George Nayally, was the chief, and because of this, my grandfather had my grandmother, who was that was her husband. She had intimate knowledge of how, he conducted his work as a leader, because what he knew was passed down from his parents and their parents, and they didn't go to these residential schools. So everything that they had learned in the manner of, what it takes as a community, not so much as a leader, right? Really, they're motivators, right? They motivate the community members to wanting to achieve something.
I feel like that would be like my thing. I don't want to be a leader. If you fuck up because of something I told you to do, it's your damn fault. Because I feel like a leader, you have to like. You're on every day, all day, like your image and everything. That's not me. That's not me. I'm more of like, I'm like the guys that's standing beside a leader, who's a leader's like, we got a problem over there. Go fix it. And then I go there and fucking tear shit out.
But here's the thing: it's a colonial structure, right? It's a colonial structure. Like, we as a people had our own clan systems, and the elder and their eldest, offspring were the spokesperson for that clan, and then each clan had that leader, right?
Yeah.
And there was never just one, one like a king or a queen. But there had to be a group that came to a consensus for an agreement or a disagreement or whatever.
And everybody has their own set of skills.
Yeah. Everybody brings something to the table. Nobody was ever left out. And that's what I meant about inclusion earlier in our conversation, is that's very important, right? And the elders knew this. And so anyways, my grandmother I would always ask questions, right? I was always curious, and I would always question things too. And
that's how you gain knowledge.
And that's how you learn how to think, right? And use your imagination. And so, I kind of was like, okay, I can do that when I get older. And, I have kind of demonstrated very early on that I wasn't afraid of crowds, or of our people, because my grandpa was always like, don't be scared of your people. These are your people. This is our family. These are our friends. You shouldn't be scared of them. And so I grew up in kind of like that. Very early on, I thought, okay, I'll become a leader, and I got these ideas and these plans, and then life just had other plans for me. Right. And I sat down with good storytellers. That's why I'm able to share good stories, I guess some people say. But me, I'm just really just sharing, through my own experiences and what I've heard from others. And it's paid off, but, would I consider leadership? Perhaps, if I feel like there's a time where we need a fresh new batch of leaders. But like I said before, it's like a colonial thing, and it's kind of like you get in there, and then you kind of, you become colonial, right? You become your people's oppressor.
In what way do you?
Just like the buck stops here, when it
like, don't do this,
don't do that,
go this way instead, guiding them and stuff.
Yeah,
but people need that. Society needs that.
Yeah, they need that. Yeah,
that's
But that's just like an off-cuff idea, But
I know like a lot of people would just like to be free to do whatever the fuck they want, and then they do that, and then they don't have anything. Their life's all messed up, and then because they're just chasing pleasure instead of doing what they were supposed to do with their responsibilities and. That's not how to do it. It's obviously not working.
No. Well, you
have to have discipline and rule structure.
You have to have that in order for civilization to continue on the path that it's going on today. But deep down, I know that there are leaders out there that do their best and try their best, but not everybody is on board. How can I describe it? I think it was Joan Jack. She's a lawyer. She described it. It might be her or somebody else, First Nations lawyer, or a scholar or somebody. They describe leaders and leadership and communities like a giant canoe. This is the best analogy I can think of, is that you want everybody to see this vision that you have, this goal that you're trying to get to. and you're in the front, guiding your people, helping your people to get to that vision, to get to that goal. And everybody behind you has a paddle. Everybody has a role to play.
Yeah.
But as soon as, the information or decisions or what have you get scrambled, people get, don't see that vision with the collective. They're stopping, and then they're asking questions, which is reasonable. But
that's normal. Yeah.
But once you have one disruptor disrupting everybody else, soon everybody stop paddling.
Yeah.
And now you're going backwards.
Yeah, going in circles too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the whole purpose of the clan system. Is so each clan was informed by their clan leader, right? They would bring whatever information was shared at this gathering, and then they would figure it out amongst their clan whether they were for it or against it.
Yeah, and that's what's important.
They would form a consensus, right?
Yeah, to be vocal about what you think too with your leaders. Like, let them go to those meetings, those council meetings, because those are for the public.
Yeah,
go there, express yourself, let them know how you're feeling, because like those thoughts of, oh, we're not going in the right direction, that's normal. But then you have to express it. You can just don't go and complain about it.
So or complain about it online.
Yeah. You see a lot of that shit. Yeah. And it's fine too. But then online too, people take that as like facts from people's posts on Facebook. Yeah. It's like, maybe you might like see it and you might agree with it, but then do your own research every time.
Do the face to face.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Leadership maybe down the road. I don't know. I can't even tell you if we'll wake up tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Aren't you a little young for that though?
Just for kind of. But that's one aspiration I've always wanted to.
Be the youngest one?
To check it out. No, not to be the youngest leader or anything like that. Like, I have no ambition to be the best, or I just want to be able to do things that'll benefit, everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I come from a household where that was the belief, is whatever big game you have, you shared it, right?
Yeah.
You were kind, you were respectful, and what have you.
Yeah. Don't keep it to yourself.
Yeah. Don't keep it to yourself. Like,
you have the formula. The formula. Share it.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up very different from a lot of my peers. I grew up in a very different household. For me, I can, because there was only ever me, with my grandparents. But my grandparents,
an only child kind of a thing.
Yeah, my grandparents mothered me with love, support, and were just there 110% all of the way, right?
I know there's,
even when I got into trouble, they try to hide me.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
I feel like that's an indigenous parent thing. No, my kids didn't do it.
Go in the back, go in the bush. Yeah.
And then they go and ask questions. The cop comes and they're like, no, he was here the whole time.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very loving home, but outside of that, I also got to experience, quite tragically, all of the things that, our parents had gone through when it comes to residential schools, that, that stuff that came back to our communities, right? Because, and it was very difficult, for a lot of our people out there watching this. You go into any community, any indigenous community, and you'll see the dysfunction that's there, that was created by the system that tried to eradicate us, right? That cultural genocide, through the form of residential school, and the racist government policy that was just in place not too long ago, right? And so
I don't like this too. Like, people like say who are not indigenous, they say things like, "Oh, like, why do they always talk about it? Why do they always bring it up? Why is this always a thing?" It's because it's important that we all remember it and like recognize it and shine light onto it so it doesn't happen again. And if you want to look at it that way, then we can flip this around and be like, oh, what about you? Like, well, Remembrance Day, Clover Day, whatever that is. Like, you guys remember all the people who died for you at the war. Let us remember ours too, and give them the time and the attention and the light that they deserve.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's important. And so I grew up in like outside of the home, kind of exposed to a lot of that. But then, I like to focus on, there's a lot of bullshit that happens growing up indigenous, you know. There's a lot of, and it's still happening to this day. But I like to focus on also the good things, that still hung on, through this.
You can go.
Through this tumultuous time, right?
Yeah.
And that was, our belief system, the way, the stories that were shared by, my grandmother were just incredible.
Yeah.
Like pre-colonial, how things were, how we conducted ourselves, how there was so much respect and love for one another and all of that. And so for myself, I like try to gravitate towards that, but when you're young growing up and you're trying to find yourself and you get mixed up with in some of the, misguided groups, you make mistakes, and that's exactly what happened with me, right? Like I did some B&Es and theft and all of that, and a lot of that was a result of just not having enough money, right?
Yeah.
My grandmother wanted cigarettes, we were out of food, and these
survival mode.
These boneheads had this idea to go into our local community store, and looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that store was there for us. We just like took advantage of it, and of the situation, and then I got into trouble, and then I ended up in foster care, and then ended up in young offenders, and in and out, kind of like the path I was taking was like really becoming a career criminal, right? And I remember this tourist that came through the community, and they were there, and it was I think it was a Japanese tourist. He had all of this nice gear, and so I went down there and I took the clothes out, and then he was looking for it, and my good friend Gary came to my house, and just this guy knows me. And was like, Lawrence, fucking, I know you took his stuff. I was like, what do you mean? Try and play dumb.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? I don't got nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I know you,
Why
man.
are you lying?
Yeah, why are you lying? And why are you stealing?
Yeah.
Your grandparents raised you to be better than this.
Yeah, that's always a line.
What are you doing? You just got out. You're getting into trouble again. We enjoy your company around the community. Just stop what you're doing. And so I said, okay. So I stopped what I was doing, and that kind of like put me on a different path, right?
That's good. You listen.
Yeah. And that sometimes you don't want to listen, right?
Yeah.
So when you're young and naive, and
you think you know everything.
Yeah. And I was like, I can either not listen and continue on this path, but he's right. My grandparents, they wanted the best for me, and I wanted the best for myself, because I know if I took good care of myself, respected myself, loved myself, and what have you, I can then turn that around and do the same for others, right?
Yeah. I
can help them out, hopefully. And so, well, there's a lot more that factored into turning a different leaf, but, that's kind of like where I come from.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
Well, no, it's sort of what.
Like it's because I think like a lot of people will relate to that, right? Like you saw like where you were going wasn't a right place. It's not where you wanted to go, and that's not who you were, and then you changed it to go into a positive direction.
Yeah, and I was hanging around with people that like to drink, like to party, and you feel like you're missing out, so you jump in, you get involved in the mix, and then
that's like chasing the pleasure thing again.
Yeah, and then you get caught up in blacking out and making mistakes. And, I would wake up, and then friends would be like, "Man, you're crazy. Why'd you do that?" And I'd be like, "Well, do what?" Like, you almost beat up or whatever, and you're like, holy smokes.
They don't even remember it?
Don't even remember. That's scary, right?
Yeah.
And it's become so normalized in our communities.
And you can die too.
And you can die, right? I had you too probably had lots of people, lots of friends, you know, that have died because of their addictions.
Yeah.
And there was no help. And, you know, that's just a result of all of the other negative effects of, you know, colonialism and residential school trauma and intergenerational trauma, right? And so I get caught up in this. And then, you know, I end up hurting some friends. And one, it was, I don't know what happened. You know, all I remember is waking up, and then they said, you almost killed Buddy. And I guess in a fit of rage, I don't know how it was brought on. I took a rod and I whacked over my buddy's head. I grew up with this guy.
Yeah.
You know, I would never, you know, think about hurting my friends.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting this big stitch and cut, and I got charged. And I thought about that. And then, you know, we went down to the neighboring community down the river, and I partied there, you know, and I got charged, and I was still continuing on.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was partying, and I woke up near the Mackenzie River. I was like just a few couple of rolls, you know, to go into the Mackenzie. If, you know, I would have drowned. And
Current strong there too.
Those two events, and then going to court, really opened up my eyes. I was like, you know, damn, I better slow down here before I get into further trouble or hurt somebody or hurt myself, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in this court, and this guy, his name is Mr. Brown, Ken Brown. You know, he passed away, but you know, at the time he was the justice of the peace judge, and you know, they read out the charges. And then you know, they get to a point. Do you have anything to say on, you know, for yourself, Mr. Nayally? And I told him, this is not me. You know, I grew up in a very loving, caring home that was culturally enriched, full of language, laughter. You know, I just made some poor decisions, and I'm staying away from the alcohol, and I'm going to get my life back into order. I'm going to take care of my grandparents while they're still here, and, you know, I'm going to find work, and that's what's going to happen. This guy heard what I said and said, I want to call for a break, a recess. And then everybody is like taking their little breaks, but he is by the exit door, and he waves me over. He's like, Lawrence, come. So, okay, step outside, and he hands me a cigarette. I was like, yeah, I'm out of cigarette, you know, having smoke. And it was like, it was the evening, so that sun was just nice. And, you know, he's having a cigarette, and he looks to me, he's like, hey. I was like, yeah. He was like, I want you to do something for me. I was like, okay. He was like, I'm going to drop all of these charges. My whole heart just sank right there. I was like, yeah. It's like, I'm going to drop all these charges, but I want you to promise me something. And I was like, okay. So I want you to promise me that you're going to do something with your life, and you're going to stop hanging around with all these boneheads. And you're going to do, you know, what you said you're going to do, take care of your grandparents, and just turn your life around. You know, here's the chance. I'm going to drop these charges. Here's your chance. So just make me that promise. And
do you find that, I know earlier in the interview you said that when you go walk in the room, the energy atmosphere changes and stuff. And do you feel like during your whole life, like people like always gave you chances, or like they always like try to like guide you and tell you what to stop, and and you think that that's because they saw something in you?
Probably. I call them my angels.
Yeah.
Without them, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm sitting today, right?
Yeah. If you find that too, listeners too, if you find that people are constantly on your ass, they're doing it for reasons, because they see potential in you that you don't even see yourself at that moment. You know, you just have to take it with stride, and just take it like they're trying to help you because they see something in you.
Yeah, and it's not because they don't like you or anything like that. Most times they just want to see you do good in life. Yeah. You know what? That's the main thing, you know, with older adults. And I'm at that stage where I wanted to see the same thing among many of our people, right? And so he took that chance on me, and I said, yeah, I'm going to take it even further, Ken. Yeah. We'll see where this goes, but I make you this promise. I am going to do something with my life. Yeah. And then he was like, okay, went back in, dropped the charges. I went out. I kid you not, I started crying right there. I thought, holy shit. I was like, this fucking guy believes in me. He wants to see me do well. That's a lot of pressure too. At the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm not ready for that quite yet.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, maybe he's right.
Yeah, you're never ready for shit.
No, you're not.
Just go figure it out as you go.
Yeah. And then I was fortunate enough right after that to start working with the First Nations, and then started traveling, and then I started hanging around with the older people. I've always been comfortable around elders, and not old people, like old, but kind of, a good mix.
Yeah.
But I've always just been comfortable around them just because, they like to listen. They have some pretty good, stories and advice and what have you. And so, after that, I started hanging around with older adults and,
I feel like they understand you too more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of formulated this way of how to conduct myself, right? To conduct myself with dignity, honor, and respect.
Yeah.
Not only for myself, but those around me, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you grow up in a community where there was a countless amount of people and elders that would come in for your spiritual gatherings, sharing just what it is to be dene Kelly, to be a human being. This is how you're supposed to be. And, not until later on you look back and you're like, damn, they were right on about everything, right? And so that's kind of like where I guess led me to where I am today. But
just take advice from people, even if you don't think it's like the right one, but just take it in and take it into consideration. You might need it down the road too, eh?
Oh yeah. There's things that pop up years later and you're like, oh yeah, this is what he meant, or this is what she meant, or they meant, and what have you. But when you have the language too, you have a little bit more access to knowledge, I find, and because you can communicate with the elders and they'll be able to share with you, and
because there's some things they can't translate into English.
No, and there's just like some incredible stuff, dude, man. There's like countless amounts of knowledge on how to, that term they throw around out there, decolonize yourself, right? How to decolonize the mind and the spirit.
Yeah.
How to, revitalize certain things, aspects of who we are.
Yeah.
There's so much. When the Hay River fire happened earlier this year, the Dene Cultural Institute was threatened, and they pulled a bunch of tape and materials out. And I was chatting with an elder from the community, Pat Martel, very knowledgeable. I advise people to go, search out these people in your community. They're just like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
They're the best professors.
They lived it.
You stick out in the, stick them out in the bush. That combination, oh my gosh, man, that is like university. You're gonna get your doctorate. You hang around with these people for 5+ years,
and it's free too. They will love it. They love it,
and they love the company, and they're just waiting there for to share this knowledge that they have, right? So I'm sitting there with them, and we're talking about this and that, and then, I talk about, what were some of the things in the Dene Culture Institute, that were valuable. And it says drum songs and whatnot. And he says, there's things that are, we collected regarding healing and how to search out, help from the land and the animals, like son. And I was like, what's son? He was like, son is a practice where you construct a small little teepee. And then you put idli, like spruce boughs, and you're just sitting there and you're just meditating. You're just meditating and you're asking for help from the animals and the land. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is some deep, deep spiritual stuff that we did on the normal, to guide us, to figure out, like, what do I do from here? I need help here.
Just listen to it, your gut feeling, whatever, like if you feel something, some kind of energy, it's usually that's a good sign too. Also, I wanted to, since we're talking about the land too, people talk about like medicine on the land as well, and I didn't know what they mean because when I was growing up, I thought, oh, you go to the doctor, he gives you some pills, and then that's it. But then if you really look into it, those pills they come from off the land, like plants and things like that. They just kind of like break it down and they put it in this little pill and then give it to us.
Yeah.
So the medicine comes from the land originally, right? So, but then I wish that there was like some kind of like a list or some kind of book that would like tell us where it is and what it is and what is it good for.
I understand there's some material resources out there that are available that each community has tried to do.
Yeah.
But like the real good stuff, the real powerful stuff, that I think that's something you have to earn by spending time with those people that know that knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Give you an example, you know, there's a combination of, I think, 3 or 4 plants when chewed. You know, let's say I got a big cut right here, right? And it's split right open.
Yeah.
They could go in the bush, get these plants together, you know, and then stick it on there, leave it on there for a day. You peel it off next day like nothing had happened.
Holy smokes.
There's medicine. There's good stuff out there that, you know, these elders knew about, right? That my grandparents and many others knew about. And, you know, the land is powerful. I tell you, like, this land is incredibly enriched with something, some entity, some presence. I don't know what it is, but it's powerful. Like, I've had moments out in the land where I'm just like, did I really just see that? Did that just really happen? You know what I mean? And it's just incredible. I'll never forget, you know, I had spent some time, you know, abroad and traveling. I had this money that my father had set up a trust fund that I had access to. I went all gung-ho partying and whatnot.
Oh, so you were one of those rich babies.
Yeah, no, not rich babies, but, you know, I had like that trust fund. It wasn't a whole lot, right?
Oh, okay.
But you know, I ended up doing all of that, and then what ended up happening was I had spent so much time away and learning the Mula English way that I had forgotten some of the things to say in the language. So I went back home, and my grandma, my mom, she's my mom.
Yeah.
She said, right? When you're speaking the language, it doesn't sound as strong. And so she said, you know, stay with us for a little bit. And so I said, okay. And I stayed with them. And then that it was a spring or summer. And my grandmother, so there's 2 events that happened that summer. I was struggling with the words, and she had advised me to go to this one location near our community. And she said, just lay down on the grass, look up into the sky, and just ask for your language. And so I did that. And I like dozed off, took a little nap, and then woke up and I just laid there. And then I swear all of these like words in the language started coming to me like through a different voice. It was really wild.
Do you find that like once you, I guess like your English got better, did it, your native tongue get like a little?
It's a delicate balance.
Okay.
Right? Because
like it got like a little like kind of like your. Because you're starting to lose like your dialect or like your accent.
It really depends on which one you feed the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're always just, you know, English oriented and learning the language and all of that, then of course that is going to be stronger than your native tongue or, you know, your understanding of your cultural identity or whatnot. But if you feed them both, you know, a good amount and strike that balance, you can be strong in both, right? Be strong like 2 people pretty much. So like that's kind of where, you know, I drew a lot of inspiration from my grandparents on learning those ways. Yeah. Because after, you know, I had that experience, you know, I was having like a really kind of downtime, like when I was 19. And she seen that and was like, it's like you're carrying around this big heavy sack. You don't look like yourself. I don't know, whatever you're carrying, you need to get it off your back.
Yeah.
And so she said, there's this way of doing that. Go into the bush, make a hole and just scream into it, and talk. And then that's what I did, and then it kind of helped. It kind of like counseling using the land. But
so that was like always your go-to if you needed help. We never went to like psychiatrist or therapist.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went to a therapist actually a few times when I was in young offenders.
Okay.
Right, because there's a lot of people in our communities that went through, violent, abusive, sexual abuse, and mental abuse, all of those things, right, in our communities. And so, I went through a lot of that, and I went through it alone. Right, you imagine you're living with two elderly people.
Yeah,
they only have enough energy and what have you to deal with certain things.
Yeah, with that too, like mental health wasn't really a thing for them back then. Huh? They just thought that that's just how life is. You just kind of tough it through and keep going.
You just blaze through it, and
which is I know like a lot of that gets like a lot of flack too, because I know like a lot of like the older generation, they like to say things like, oh, like the younger generation are so soft and they're so sensitive, but it's just like I think it's like that because like we're living like a more like comfortable, more safe life than they did. So now our mind wanders now more because we're not in survival mode all the time.
Yeah.
And so now we're like, oh, okay, like we're more aware of what our surroundings and what we're feeling and what we're going through. And I think that that's a good thing. That's because it's going to make us stronger, like as people, and just understanding ourselves and not just that trauma. You need to deal with that all that stuff in your head. It has to be dealt with.
Yeah, you can't hang on to those things. And my grandfather was always under that mindset that, of course, bad things are going to happen. Things are going to happen in this life. That's the way you learn, right?
Yeah.
Through these experiences. But you can't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
And how you let that hold you back is if you're holding on to that stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to let go. And, through therapy, you work that out. And I've only been to that a few times. And most of the times, I've counseled with my close friends and, my spouse and whatnot. That's where I get my counsel from, right? Whenever I'm going through a difficult time, because you realize you're not alone. You're not out in this world doing things alone. You just got to learn how to reach out for help and just say, hey, you know what? I've hit this wall. I need help. I need serious help. And there's people out there that really care and love you and, want to see you doing good. And they'll spend their energy and their time to helping you out,
I know like everybody, like we always think that we're like unique and we're completely different than everybody else, that our story is just only ours. It's like, no, once you tell it, you're going to be surprised how much people will relate to you and they'll like have some advice, or maybe they have a friend who went through a similar thing. And it's just about like being together as one and being connected to your community around you and helping each other. And just that's how we all grow in the end.
Yeah. And the thing too is when you hit your 30s and you're looking back and you start to realize why so many of those, like our parents and their parents were so like rocks, no emotion and whatnot. It's because of like what happened to them. That was just recently.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to raise families.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
They were like babies too.
Yeah,
they were babies having babies.
That takes strength, right? Because sometimes I hear people saying, they never shared that story with us. Well, for me, it's like, why would they? That's going to bring you down. And I don't think they want to do that. They want to ensure that you're safe, that you're loved, that you're comfortable, that you don't ever have to deal with the type of shit that they had to go through, because that's some hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
And so
be good to your parents.
Be good to, be good, be respectful, love your parents, take time for them because they're not here forever, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm thankful I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. But then there was a part of me that also wanted to know who my mom was. I wanted to know who my dad was.
Because you were in a foster system.
Well, it wasn't really foster. Like living with my grandparents, they were like my mom and dad, right? But that, growing up, that's who I thought they were. But then I found out that actually I had a mother and I had a father and I had these siblings. So you grow up kind of like, well, where are they? What,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And later on, I met up with them. And what's crazy? It was the first time I met my mother. I was in young offenders. I was locked up,
Yeah.
secure custody for I think 6 months, 9 months, and she like came in, and I was like, out of all the times, why now? Like, and she just came in to say, I heard that you were in here. Your dad wouldn't have never wanted you to be in here. I don't know why you're getting into trouble, but you should listen to your mom and your grandma and grandpa, and don't stop getting into trouble. In my mind, I thought, I kind of like was a little bit hurt. You know what I mean? Like, after 14, 15 years, now you show up and now you want to give me a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
Like, where were you? Like, why'd you just give me up so easily, right?
Yeah.
But then, you realize that it was my grandmother that really wanted one of us.
Yeah.
And so I just accepted that, at that time. And I never get mad for too long, like, and I realized, I was like, okay, so she did it out of love. Had she had seen me when I was growing up real young, she probably would have took me back, and I probably would have missed out on the things that needed to be passed on to me through my grandparents.
Yeah, like traditions, and cultures and stuff.
Yeah. So now that I'm older, I'm like, everything that had happened to me needed to happen in order for me to, see the vision that I have for myself, right?
Yeah, and being present.
And being present, yeah.
Yeah, because if you can't just think about the past, it's already happened.
Yeah. And my grandpa was he was such a chill guy.
Yeah.
When shit hit the fan, he'd be like, just calm down. Don't panic. We're going to figure this out. You know what I mean? Or just let it be. Let it be. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's none of our business.
Yeah.
Once it becomes your business, then sure.
Yeah.
Focus your energy on solving, that problem or what have you. My grandmother was different, and she was a go-getter.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted things done, and she wanted things done a certain way, and you're to respect that. And so, having him also, very on the religious side, believing in the Bible and what have you. That was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
My grandmother was the opposite, held on to the ancient ceremonies of our people, the different practices and whatnot in our household. And so I got to see both of those worlds in and out, right?
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And I was always like, cool, man. I'm more curious about grandma's side. You know what I mean? Like, I know Jesus' story. He died on the cross for us and, praise him, thankful, But this stuff my grandma's talking about, that, the stuff her friends are performing, the ceremonies, how to get bad medicine out of people, or, you know what I mean? Like,
just like absorbing everything around
and the stories they shared about little people, shapeshifters, I was like, damn, that is some juicy stuff.
What's that story about little people anyway? Because like I remember my cousin and my friend of mine, we went on that hill, I don't know what you call it, just here on Old Town, at the top there when you walk up. Anyway, there's like
Pilot's Monument.
There's like I didn't know this before because I've been there a couple of times. There's like these little like houses, like these little shack or like a warehouse or something, and the doors are tiny, the walls are like it's just small, and it's just like I just thought like what, they were like people back then like short.
Yeah, they're really tiny people. Like the north, that we call this place dene, right? Land of the human beings, land of the people. It's such a mysterious land.
I know.
I mean, we don't know what's out there. You hear stories of these giant beings in the lake, or, these giant animals that they used to kill, giant eagles and birds and, dinosaurs and whatnot. And you're just like, wow, this is so incredible. The amount of stories that are up here. Like, did you know when the glaciers came over North America, when everything started to freeze, there was pockets that were isolated from all of that, right? That were habitable for living things to sustain themselves. And we had a particular area like that out in the Nayally National Park Reserve, right? So imagine everything covered by ice, but then you have this huge pocket that's just untouched. The greenery is prehistoric. You have animals, maybe mammoths running in there, caribou, everything is evolving slowly. And then you have our people kind of mingling in there, surviving, holding it out until everything melts, and then everything melts, and then they spring out from there.
We're survivors.
And we're survivors, right? And, they say we came from like Africa and whatnot, but, and they talk about this Bering Sea Strait.
Really? I thought that we were always here.
But yeah, that's the belief, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing with bridges, right? They say we came over here, but bridges work both ways.
Yeah.
What if it was us that went over there?
Yeah.
What if Africans are,
we could be here all day. Yeah.
But
that's another episode.
Yeah. That's another episode.
And that's the thing too with that too. Like you can turn on like the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and then you can know like what Egypt did like thousands of years. Yeah. We need that for us.
Oh yeah. Well, the big thing right. But I mean, like, the world we're living in today is very interesting.
Yeah.
And there's and I've said this before, is the North is so underexplored. We don't know what is out there.
Yeah.
For all we know, we could have pyramids up here that the people built long time ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's tucked under a huge growth of trees that we have, in abundance. Maybe it's underneath one of these lakes. We don't know, right?
Yeah. Like we don't even know too if we were like we know that we're not like the only at first like advanced civilization. You know what I mean? That's how like the pyramids were made and like all these things. So it's just like it's kind of like interesting to think like, oh, since they made the pyramids there in Egypt, what about here? Like what about the civilizations here? What did they create?
Yeah. And now, they had these U.S. hearings on UAPs saying they're disclosing that, there are UFOs and there's non-biologic, like anything could be non-biologic. Just say it, man. We've been through a pandemic. We've been through a lot of hardships.
Nothing will fucking surprise me.
And it's like, okay, what else? Like the world's supposed to end next month or whatever. Yeah. It's like, whatever, just get over and done with. Like,
a fucking spaceship came and started shooting at downtown. I'm just gonna be like, that's happening. Okay.
When this news came out, people were like, I could care less. What I'm more curious about is whether they have affordable housing on their planet or not. That is where people are at today, right? People are struggling. People are having a hard time.
Too much homeless people. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And there's so much fucking houses that are empty.
Yeah.
Like what the hell? Like go put these people in houses. They need a bed, comfortable, a place to like rest their heads. And take care of their families.
And that's the thing too with our people is we never stayed in one place for too long, like how it is right now. This is really like an experiment. This isn't a European experiment that was brought over to kind of keep us in one place and control us so we can become consumers and whatnot. Because when you're traveling everywhere and you're moving all the time, you don't have time to buy all of these things.
And they can't tax you.
And carry it around.
It's all about money. It's always been about money. People say things like, they're all like racist and stuff. Maybe, I don't know, but it's always about money. Like I remember reading about this too somewhere that the whole like slave trade when they brought all the Africans to North America, that was about money. Like because they were like selling the slaves and the slaves were building property. They were building all these buildings and stuff for the rich. Yeah. So it was all money based.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's crazy. But I mean, there's so many incredible stories up here. There's lots of medicine, lots of good people, and I just like it up here. It's so nice.
I know it's nice and peaceful.
The rest of the world is burning, and it's crazy what's happening to the planet right now with the low water levels, all of this stuff happening. It's
I love it. There's no mosquitoes outside right now too. That wildfire went and killed all those little fuckers. I thought nothing could kill them. Yeah. I remember stepping outside my parents' house having a smoke. I was like, holy shit, this is nice. You could go have a picnic or something.
Yeah. yeah, no, it's great, and I'm in favor of that. You know, you go way onto the bush though. You go into the tundra. Holy smokes, those mosquitoes all suck you dry.
I saw
so much out there.
They were saying on I saw somewhere on Facebook. They're like, the mosquitoes now, they just lift up your pants and then they just go and bite you.
But yeah, the land is incredible. This connection we have, as spirit beings, having this human experience is beyond anything. Like there's some things out there that I'm always curious about, like why did that happen or how did this happen? A good example is we were out in the bush years ago, and my friend had gone to this altercation and he was about to leave the camp, and we had to walk across this like rapids that had just formed with ice. And good thing I brought my drum. I brought my drum, and we made a little fire, made a little offering, and asked for help. And then when we were done, this little trail, this fox trail just appeared, and I was like, this guy knows where he's going. We followed him all the way, and he brought us across. And we got to the other side, and I was just like, how the heck did that happen?
What was there?
Across. Fort Smith.
Oh,
the Rapids of the Dead, they call it.
Oh, okay.
The Slave River Rapids.
Yeah.
Those two guys that walked across it, that was me, and that was my buddy there. But my grandfather always said, whenever you're traveling on ice you don't know about, carry a long stick, and that's what they did.
Ooh, I never heard that before.
In case you fall in, it can grab onto you. Right? And you can use that and what have you and get out of there. So
that's what happens when you have a curious mind. You just go and do shit, not thinking about the consequences.
Yeah. So I did that. Went across, and then there was this fresh new ice that had just formed.
Yeah.
The one on the left looked more safer than the one on the right. I was there in the fall, right, launching a boat, and I knew that river is fast flowing and it's deep in that boat launch area. So I was like, if we fall through that, that's it, we're screwed. And so I was looking to the right. I was like, no. I went to the left, and I took like probably about 2-3 steps, and all of a sudden I just heard, Loy!
Yeah.
My dad, my grandfather, he had passed, but he was yelling at me like clear as day, like he was right behind me.
Yeah.
I looked behind. I was like, what? I was like, okay, this is obviously a warning.
Yeah.
I better listen to it. I grabbed this stick, and I went over there, and I poked it about probably 2.5-3 feet away from me. I was like, holy smokes, I pulled it back. I was like, had I just taken those steps, had that warning never happened, I would have fell through. So I went the original way I thought, right? I thought to myself, that's what happens when you second guess yourself.
Yeah.
And that's also what happens when you don't follow this, because my heart was telling me go on the right, but my brain was telling me go on the left, right?
Yeah.
So I followed my heart and then got to safety. But
something spoke to you.
You know what I mean? Like the spirits, I don't know, like
our ancestors. We're a product of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everybody, the generations before us.
Yeah,
they had to go through everything they went through, and they are guiding us, whether we see it or not sometimes.
Oh yeah. And then there's other things that I had seen. I once seen a brown wolf come out of the bush, thought it was going to attack me, and turn itself into 2 chickens instead.
Really?
And were dancing around me. You ever see chickens dance?
No.
All right, they stick out their feathers like this.
Yeah.
And they just kind of go like that. And then one was hissing at me, freaking me out, man. As this was going on, right? The trees were swaying, the little bit of rain came, and then this lightning was just striking this one mountain over and over again. And then I was like, okay, I'm not here for you guys. Stop it.
Yeah.
And then they just stopped, looked at me, and then just went on their little merry way like nothing had happened.
Okay.
Freaked me the hell out.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of stories, huh?
Yeah, later that week I had a vision. I seen Creator, or maybe it was an angel. I don't know, but them mountains up there, and then the Nayally.
Yeah.
It's powerful. They call that the spirit realm.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because that's where they believe Yamoga, the great lawmaker, the great traveler.
Yeah.
Right? The medicine man, the big giant that killed the giant beavers. That's where they believe he originated from. Right? And so we're in his, in his area, in his backyard. Okay. So, there's a pond up there. They call it Gatamitwe, you know. And when we were up there, and you go there to make an offering, every dene has tried in the past at least once in their lifetime to make it there just to make an offering. That is our Mecca. That is where we go to make our offering to Creator.
I didn't know that.
Through his, you know.
Where? Oh, yeah.
And, you know, so this is way out there. This is like long ways. My grandfather went in there, and he had seen an animal change in front of him too. And then, you know, he asked the elders back in his hometown in Blackwater, like, I seen this animal change in front of me. What does it mean? And those elders said, whenever you see that happen, something big in the world is about to take place. Oh. And then right after that happened, World War II kicked off for him, that generation. When I seen that wolf change into the two chickens, the year after the pandemic struck.
COVID.
So you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, these elders have this ancient wisdom, you know, that I was fortunate enough to have been a recipient of that.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's incredible.
So out there, it's a powerful place.
Yeah.
And so you go to this pond to make that offering, right? Yeah. And what's crazy, this blew my mind, and that got me more curious, is that when you get there, there's these pile of rabbit foot, like they're bones, if not the fur still on there, but it's rabbit feet, right? And I asked, I was like, what is going on here? The guide, he said, every night throughout the summer, we don't know why, but every single night, an eagle or a hawk drops a fresh rabbit near this watering hole.
What does that mean?
And then we don't know what eats it.
Okay.
But they make an offering. The birds, the eagles, they make this offering of rabbits to this rabbit
so it's
kettle.
Just like the living around it.
They know to pay offerings to this, right? Like, so, you know, the animals are telling you, like, this is a special spot. This is where you should go to make your prayer as a people. This is what, you know, Creator created for you to do that, right?
Yeah, it's higher power.
So, like, you know, for me, as soon as I learned about all of these things, my mind goes in the direction of, how can this be utilized to empower another human being? To give them back their cultural identity, to give them these stories, this knowledge, right? To find themselves. Because really, at the end of the day, for me anyways, we're all trying to find ourselves out here, right? We're trying to find meaning to our lives. Why are we here? Why are we born, right? And so your inner spirit, your dene, your inner child, right? Like, this is what I was taught. Yeah. It takes off on you. You know, your little inner child, the kid that wasn't scared of the world or anything like that. You know, he's out there, and it's your responsibility as a person, you know, going on this journey to find them again. And so, you know, that's what they say. And my grandfather was always like, it's not the land that you're scared of. The land is a reflection of you. Okay. So if you're scared of the bush, you're really, in essence, scared of yourself. Oh. Right? So go out there. That's why they always say, go set snares. Go in the bush by yourself.
Do what scares you.
Because
that's how you get, like, brave. And that's how you build courage.
And their belief was that if you go out enough times, maybe Creator will spot you, feel sorry for you, and give you something to help you for your journey forward, right? Yeah. And so when I learned about this, also what you're trying to do is you're trying to invite that little person, you know, that little Vernon, right? Yeah. You know, that little kid that was not afraid of the world at all. Before the world came to him and, you know, shook up his home, he ran off, right? Yeah. And so once you go out there and you find yourself again, right? You find that inner child, you'll have the ability to never be scared of things in this world again. You'll be sure of yourself. You'll know who I am. You know, I know my limits, what I'm comfortable with. I know the vision and how to achieve it. You'll have it not figured out, but you'll just be more confident. You know, you'll know yourself a little bit more, and just you know. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty. Yes. On that note, yeah, we could go on and on and on, but I know you're checking out your time. You're like, holy shit, this guy ever talks lots.
No.
Talks more than me.
Because my phone might die, like the recording. Yeah. So thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing everything with us today. Yeah. Yeah, you're really out here doing this shit. Okay. You have to come back.
No, I'd be more than grateful to come back on your podcast, and I encourage more people to check it out and support you. And I see you doing this, and I'm just like, damn, this is what we need more of, right? Because once you start showing this to especially our young kids out in our communities, you can do this stuff too, you guys.
Everybody can do it. Just start. Even if you're not gonna do it great or perfect, just start, and you can figure it out as you go.
Okay. Just start. Be brave and just take those chances. But know when to ask for help.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And don't take life too seriously. You know what I mean? Like we're all going on this journey, and we're here to learn. Right? We're here to learn and to pass on what we have learned to the generations behind us, so they can, in turn, make something even better than we could.
Yeah. Great. On that note, listen to us, man. Everything you said, take it in. Thank you. That concludes another episode of Vernon's podcast.
All right, Masi Cho. Thanks, Vernon.
Yeah.